Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Bailey and today I'm going to be answering some of your questions about my life as a teacher. I have documented quite a bit of my first few years of teaching on my Instagram. I share daily teacher life and classroom happenings over there. I put a question box on my story to see the things that you wanted me to chat more about. I have them right here. Let's get started. How long have you been teaching? I am a third year fourth grade teacher. I started off with a year-long student teaching internship in fourth grade. Then I was offered a fourth grade position the following year at the same school and have thankfully stayed put ever since. I have also stayed in the same classroom and with the same amazing team, but we are excited to be switching some things up this year because we're going to try a bit of departmentalizing. Also, before really diving into things, I want to share again that this will be my third year of teaching. There are a lot of things that I'm still actively figuring out, which is a big part of my passion and engagement with my community on Instagram. I love how I'm able to get inspired by and get advice from teachers all over the world. I have experienced how different strategies can work well for different teachers, classes, and even how things can look and work differently year to year based on a million factors. With that being said, I have done a lot of trial and error and put a lot of effort into figuring out the strategies that do work well for me, and I really enjoy sharing them. When do you go back to school? We have a week of professional development starting on August 21st, and then our first day of school is a half day on August 28th. We don't get much time to work in and on our classrooms during that first week of PD, so my goal is to have most, if not all, of my classroom setup projects done beforehand. I'm doing another short summer school program at my school in August, so I will already be there for the mornings, and I'm planning to work on some projects there during those afternoons as needed. I also have some prep that I'm able to do from home, so I'm happy to get started on that, and I'll be filming it all this week. What subjects will you teach this upcoming school year? As I mentioned earlier, my team and I are departmentalizing. This year, one of my teammates will be teaching social studies, the other will be doing Words Their Way and Number Corner, and I will be teaching science. I'll be teaching math, reading, writing, and then science for all of fourth grade, and that will be 3 times. After being self-contained for 2 years, I'm definitely looking forward to this change, and I welcome tips or advice as we start to plan it all out if you want to leave it below. Are you changing your decor? Yes. I have quite a few decor changes planned. A lot of my decor items will be the same, but I'm tweaking them a bit and swapping in some new colors. I am also redoing my bulletin boards with fresh paper and borders. Again, with our changes, I just won't need things like a full board for Number Corner anymore, and I want to create a larger space that's dedicated to our science learning. Advice for decorating a classroom. I plan everything out in advance, so I'm thinking about what I want up, where I'm going to put it, and what I need to prep beforehand. Like I said, I'm redoing my bulletin boards this year, so I will be getting new paper and borders, printing and laminating things, and then cutting out titles with my Cricut. I look to Instagram for a lot of inspiration for things that I may want, and then also thinking about those big curriculum concepts, what's important for us in fourth grade. For example, I know I want skip count and place value posters up and easily accessible because those are things that my mathematicians use daily. Be intentional with what you put up. Keep it simple and purposeful. Slapping a bunch of things on the walls can be very distracting and overwhelming. And finally, it does not all have to be up when school starts. I wait to add a lot of things with my kids. Even decor, I do a self-portrait project at the beginning of the year, and I think that things like this allow for students to quickly develop the ownership and comfortability in our classroom. Tips for the first day and week. Biggest priorities for me are building relationships, consistency with routines, and communicating clear expectations. I am jumping right in and discussing it all as it happens right from the start. I keep our general schedule and routine as consistent as possible. I don't jump into all curriculum immediately, but I make sure to do subject-based activities in their correct time schedules, like math-focused activities to fill our hour-long math block. This helps us ease into those routines. I also plan to share and chat through all of my first day and week plans as it gets closer. I have not planned it yet, but stay tuned. Classroom management. In general, something that I like to remember is that students will rise to the expectation that you're setting for them. Be clear, consistent, and explaining the why behind your rules will go a long way with the kids. Explaining why we should walk quietly in the hallway, and maybe even reminding them of a time where they felt distracted by talking or something happening in the hallway, so they can empathize and buy into those expected behaviors instead of just saying, you need to be quiet right now. Last year I had a whole class behavior management system and an individual management system. As a whole class, we had a reward jar. The jar lives on our whiteboard, and we work together to fill it with stars by following and exceeding expectations in our classroom and school each day. Before starting, the class would vote on a reward, what happens when we fill the jar. We did things like a movie and PJ day. Once we decided, I wrote it on the board as a visual reminder of what we were working towards. Some things that we earned a star for were planned, like if we all finished our planners on time for morning work, but a lot of the times the stars were given randomly, and that could have been for things like appropriate transitions or compliments. My class loved the system last year and were super motivated by it, so I'm definitely going to be doing it again this year. The specific jar that I have is currently sold out, but there are a lot of other ways to create the same visual. I know that teachers use things like a marble jar. Individually, we had a classroom economy system. At the beginning of the year, we had a class meeting where we discussed positive and negative consequences for our actions. We talked through certain behaviors and then agreed on specific monetary values for some of them. Throughout the day, students would keep track of times where I would either give or take money in their little books. Then about every other month, students calculated their balances and were able to either save it or spend it in our class store. My first year, I had little toys and things in the class store, but last year I decided to switch to strictly coupons, which the kids loved just as much without me having to purchase anything, so I would definitely recommend that. This year I am looking for an easier way to manage the individual money. There was unfortunately some dishonesty with the individual bookkeeping, and it was a lot to manage at times. I've heard a lot of good things about Class Dojo, and I really like how it's all digital, so I'm considering trying that out this year. Again, if you have any advice or opinions on this, feel free to leave it below. Life outside of teaching. Outside of teaching, I have been married to my husband Andrew for 2 years. We also just built a house and are finishing a lot of projects this summer. Hopefully before school starts, we'll have all of that settled. Family is another very important thing to me. We are so lucky to have parents, siblings, grandparents that are close by, and we're able to spend a lot of time with them. And of course, my friends and teacher besties are close by as well. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll be active in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you here next week with some classroom setup prep. I'm going to show you all the things I'm doing before going back into my classroom. Thanks for being here.